So again, thank you for being here today on our webinar on personalization, automation, and serial parts on multi-company setup. We'll start this webinar with personalization and automation. Sorry. Okay. So our plan for today will start on explaining what we mean about personalized ERP and the tools we have for automation. Like always, through the webinar, you will have the opportunity to write questions in the question box on your screen. In the end, I will dedicate a few minutes to answer questions that seems to have interested most of you. So let's start with something that may sound obvious. IDC states that after COVID, organization came out a lot more digital. Actually, we all came out a little more digital after COVID. Now that things like cloud, mobile, and remote work are basic, organizations want their ERP system to have additional traits such as automation, personalization, and more. The new age of ERP understands today that one size fits none, which means that each company and user wants to have a system customized to their specific needs. Smart system allows the user to learn it on the one hand, and on the other hand, it studies user usage patterns using smart AI capabilities and recommends a personalized ERP experience. We are all about to see a few slides with examples of how the system learns from user behavior and recommends accordingly. I will start with Priority Personalized homepage. We all know that you can add these tiles on the homepage manually. Now we can see that on the bottom of the slide that the system recommends that I personalize my workspace based on my most frequently used process. In our example, we can see that we have the form tasks and sales orders. If I accept, the system will automatically add these shortcuts to my homepage. The personalization doesn't end here. Let's see one of the forms that everyone is familiar with, the sales order. But remember, what I'm about to show you is relevant across the board in priority. When I enter the sales order form, the system noticed that I haven't recently accessed some of my sub-level forms and suggests hiding them here. I can select and accept or not. Another example is how the system recommends the next best actions for the user. There are many actions available, as we can see it here on the slide. And if the user chooses to accept the recommendation, a shortcut will be made available directly in the UI top panel here. So if I summarize, until now we saw how the system could learn about our behavior and recommend how to design our workspace. And now we'll see how we can teach the system to help us in our day-to-day process. When we talk about intelligent workflow, additional aspects of automation are worth mentioning. Let me switch now to priority. Just a second. Here it is. Okay. This is the US demo now that we see. And let me show you our automation tool. Okay. On the top part of the forms, just enter all those forms. Just a second, take some time a little bit. Here, we're on the sales order forms, and we can see that on each form, on the top of the forms, we have this cute robot here, automations, which is the new button for Priorities Automation Hub. This button can be used to set up automation for repetitive tasks. This interactive app has several tools, some of which you might already be familiar, like macro, business rules, and autofill rules that provide now on with rule-based automation and data-driven automation. The big change happened on the macro tool. It has two main changes in version 22. The user experience for building a macro rule is now more intuitive and easy. and you don't have to be an expert user to set up a shortcut or automation. The second change, the big change, is the ability to set up a macro automation for full business process. What does it mean? It means that you can set up a macro for more than one form. For example, let's say that I want to open shipping documents for all the sales orders that need to be delivered the next day. The new version of macro enables automations that open a shipping document for all sales orders displayed on the form. I will activate the macro automation that I prepared in advance. This is it. Okay, yeah. Okay, we can see that the macro I created creates a shipping document for each sales order with a click of a button. It's returned to the sales order, and now it's going to the next line and open a shipping document and return to the sales order to the next line. I will just stop it now. Okay, so this is about it for the personalization and automation for version 22. Before we finish talking about it, I can share with you that we plan to take more powerful tools in Priority and transfer them to the Automation Hub and improve their user experience. Let's see if we got questions. I see we have a few questions here about personalization, so I'll explain. We monitor the use of our Priority Cloud customers. If, for example, we see that a certain user uses the same form, procedure, report many times over a period of time, typically 30 days, we will recommend adding these entities as a tile to the user's homepage for easier and faster access. If the user already hides the recommended entities and he continues to work the same in the next months, we won't recommend anything. You should know that the user can ask not to receive any recommendations at all, and then we won't recommend anything. Okay, return to my PowerPoint. So now I will switch to our second topic for today, multi-company serial part management. So until version 22, serial part management was done per company. As we can see on the slide, the data of one serial part was reflected in each company individually according to the transactions that occurred in that company. You should know that the organization in which this solution is suitable. However, there are organizations whose business process require a solution for working in a multi-company setup, allowing them to receive complete visibility about the serial data and its logistic development from all companies at any given time. For such companies, we have developed this feature, which is a standard part of the system and is available starting with version 22. So the agenda for this topic is that I will share with you the functionalities of this new feature. Then I will do a demo, and during it, we will go over the easy setup for this feature. And we will see the distribution of the serial parts, and we will learn to navigate the new control forms. Like always, I will dedicate a few minutes to answer questions that seems to have interested most of you. So what kind of information is available in the multi-company setup? All data on the slide will be available in one form, no matter which company we are working, company A, company B, or company C. This data includes the form on the bottom of the slide. We will talk about most of them during the demo. In addition, as we can see on the slide, the new functionality enables the distribution of serial parts from the source company, where the part was created, to the target companies on the same priority installation. Now let's see it in priority. First of all, we will go over some setups that should be defined in order to work with this feature. So the first step is that we need to indicate which companies participate in this process. For this setup, I will open the form companies, and we can see 3 companies I colored in red in advance. So you will be able to notice which companies flagged with this new checkbox. I'm talking about this checkbox, multi-company. We can see it here. Just a second. Multi-company serial number company. Okay, as we can see, those companies colored in red are the US, German, and Netherlands. The second step is to flag all the relevant parts with a new flag. Let's see it on the form, on the part catalog, of course. We can do it on the part itself. On the additional details, we have a new checkbox. This one, okay. Or we can do it through the family part. We go from here. We have the same checkbox here, talking about this one, multi-company serial number. As we all know, if we do settings through the family, each new part linked to this family will be added to the process. Just before I forget, make sure that all the relevant parts exist on the companies that are a part of this distribution process. That's about it for the setup. For this demo, let's assume that there is a customer that returned from a trip on the United States where he purchased a watch from an international company, and now after returning to Germany, he discovers that the digital monitor of the watch broke and he wants to fix it. With the help of this new feature, the German company can upload the watch details according to its serial part and receive its complete information online. Now we will focus on the information we have for the serial number that distributes to the German company, and later I will dedicate a few minutes to show you the distribution process. So I will shift to my Open tab. It's the same installation, but other company. This is the German company, as we can see it here. Okay. And there, let's upload the data of this watch. Going to the form catalog of parts with serial numbers. This is it. Here we can see the part, which is our watch, and its serial number. We can also see the source company here, where this serial part was created, which is the US company. Let's see what kind of information we have on the sub-level forms. The first one is the audit trail. The audit trail of the item form shows us transactions from other companies like the US, where this serial number was created and shipped to the customer. See, created and shipped to the customer. On the second sub-level form, history of components, we have here several transactions. The opening 3 lines, we have the same GLV. In this GLV, we can see this watch was born on the US company here. And we see all the components related to this watch, the digital monitor and 2 elastic watch bands. The last 2 lines are the service calls of our digital monitor that the German company replaced. So we can see all the transactions related to the same serial part in one form. On the serial components of part, we can see, just a second, in a minute you will see. Okay, we can see the customer watch components again, but this time we see the current components of this specific watch. Again, you can see the Germany demo and the US demo. On the next form, we can see the service code. We can see the service code that this serial number was a part of them. And the last sub-level form that I want to mention now is a new form called multi-company data distribution log. This form shows us the log of the distribution. We can see that once I did the customer shipment on the US company, here, we can see the distribute record to the German and the Netherlands companies. You should know that multi-company sales part distribute to other companies when document that contains an inventory transactions finalized. In addition, we can see that the distribution on the German company ended successfully with this flag distribution, but for the Netherlands, it bumped into error. Later, I will dedicate a few minutes to show you the distribution process and how we manage the results of the distributions. So if I summarize, we're already familiar with most of these sub-level forms. In fact, this is the same business process that we use to manage those serial parts. But with this new feature, the system helps us to see all the information from all companies in one form. Now I want to show you how the distribution happens. I prepared in advance, again on the US company, a customer shipment. Let's go there. This is it. So in this example, we use the customer shipment document. But of course, every time we use an inventory sale transactions like sales invoice or over-the-counter invoice, the serial part is about to distribute to the target companies. So how it works? I will switch the status of this transaction to final. In this moment, the distribution process starts. We can see the distribution record on a new sub-level form that I'm here now. Here on the document, the name is multi-company serial number data distribution log. And we can see all the serial parts from the US company, to the other companies pending. We can see that they are pending because this distribution flag is not marked yet. This one, you already saw it in other sub-level form. In order to generate this distribution, I will run a new program from the menu named multi-company serial part distribution. Let me just find it again. On the serial numbers menu, we have this menu, multi-company serial numbers, and we have actually two programs. The one that I'm using is, sorry, these two programs. The one that I'm using is the first one. The second one is on the TTS. We'll talk about it in a second. This program actually will generate all the serial parts that are pending to distribute to other companies. So let's run it together. When I run this program, the system transfers us to a new form called multi-company serial numbers waiting distribution, where we can see all the serial parts which are pending for distribute. I prepared in advance a saved search for today's transactions, and once I will exit from the form, the program will take all the pending transactions that displayed and distribute them. Yeah. Just a second, I will exit the form. At the end of the run, we will see the distribution result report. It will be in a second. And we can see that the distribution for the German was successful, this one. But for the Netherlands, it didn't end successfully. I had another transaction. That's why we see two lines for the Netherlands. Few things that I would like to mention. We recommend that the program which generates the distribution will run automatically in the Tabula Task Scheduler. Please make sure it will be a part of your setup. In addition, you should know that sometimes the distribution doesn't occur, like we saw in the Netherlands company. At this point, I want to mention that if we run the program through the scheduler, we can define specific employee as in charge of receiving the distribution results report. You can check how it's done on our SOPs. So that's it for this topic. I will take a minute to go over the question box. Okay, we have here 2 questions that I think relevant for everyone. Some of you ask about the timing of the distribute of the serial part and why it's not already at an earlier stage before the inventory transactions. So the idea is that if the serials part hasn't been sold yet, the information about in other companies is irrelevant. The goal is not to go overload the database prematurely. In the same context, I will say that a serial part can be copied from one company to another company at any time through the copy serial part to additional company program, which you can find on the form multi-company serial part location. That's it for this. Another question that I see, do we need the MDM module for this feature? Okay, so we don't need the MDM module for this feature. You should know that this new feature is a part of the standard package. And that's it. If you have any more questions, I will be happy to answer. That's it for today. Thank you for joining me for this webinar. And I really hope that you learned something new. Thank you very much.